Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So since we're in a lockdown and I've done my makeup and I'm like low-key really bored, I've read all my manga updates and everything, I thought, wait a minute, I was at uni for 4 years, let me talk about it. So my overall university experience was pretty horrible, but I'll get into that, and it was horrible for various amount of reasons. So I went to uni at the University of Wolverhampton in the UK. Um, if you can't guess, the university was in Wolverhampton. It's like a part of Birmingham, but not a part of Birmingham. Anyway, I live in Birmingham, so it was like a 20-minute train ride. The only reason I went there is because I didn't see the email from the Birmingham City University. I didn't see the email where they accepted me. My UCAS inbox was a bit of a mess. So I didn't see the email that they accepted me, so I was like, bet I'm gonna go to Wolverhampton. I started off as a foundation degree, because I didn't know what kind of art medium I wanted to work with best. So I did an art and design foundation year, and it was pretty interesting because I got to sample like every course in the building. Yeah, so I was in one building for 4 years, the School of Art building. So I did my bachelor's in visual communication and illustration. I started off on the foundation course, decided I liked illustration, but I went on the combined visual communications plus illustration plus graphics. That was like the full like title of the first thing I picked. So for my first year I was doing that, and I realized in this second year of the bachelor's degree that I loved illustration way more than graphic design. I really hated graphics design. There was too much studying over fonts and like things that I deemed really unnecessary to me. So I switched completely to just the illustration course, and we found out years into the course that the illustration degree itself was quite new to the university. So there was a lot of unorganized sessions. The tutors were low-key a mess. We did have some really great tutors, but the lesson planning and like the communication and like the work, everything was very je ne sais quoi, very last minute, and very like you could just see how unorganized it was. I feel like it kind of improved like as the years went along, but that's not really good enough for the fact that we paid 9,250 a year, and you expect to have a good service, but I'm saying that like it's a restaurant. To clarify, this is all based on like my uni experience. Everyone's uni experiences are going to be different, but talking back on my experience on the illustration course, it was very, you could tell that our year was like the first year where they'd established the illustration course itself, and like you could very clearly see that the next year below us they had a better experience on the illustration course, whereas we were getting a very watered down, we were getting the experiment stage of the course, and we were basically there for them to experiment, and we could kind of see the foundation of the course being built as we went along. Like everything was very, very disappointing. I feel a bit of it came to the tutors. We could see that they put so much effort into like the year below us, and like you could see they were getting a better quality of the course itself. Yeah, so that definitely affected the way I kind of felt about everything. But I'm gonna backtrack and go and talk about my first year at uni. My first year of my bachelor's degree was it wasn't anything that I expected it to be. It was very disheartening because we just jumped into like a different level of education, and it was when I had a combined of I was doing graphics and I was doing illustration. I found myself really enjoying the illustration tasks, and the graphics tasks were like very not for me, very not me. They were not speaking to me, and the tutors were, some were great, but some they weren't selling it for me. And that's why I made the decision to just go onto the illustration course by itself, and that would be just solely illustration work and no graphics, no studying fonts and everything. But that first year of my bachelor's it was like you go into uni with a lot of expectations. Like you think you can go through these freshers and join societies, I remember asking around like, oh, what societies can we join? Like, do you know people in my class? No one had any idea. And people, I think art students are very introverted. Like, I'm very introverted. And art students tend to be very like, like not as outgoing from my experience. So like a lot of people were like very dead personalities. But I've got dead personality too. But like yeah, so no one was talking about societies, no one was planning nothing. And I'm like, wow, my uni experience, what's going on here? But I didn't join any societies that year. I didn't go to any freshers. Anyways, I didn't socialize either, so coming from college and high school, I was a very social person. I used to be surrounded by a lot of friends, used to do a lot of things. To summarize the relationship aspect, I didn't make a single friend till this last year where I started socializing a bit more. I never thought I'd go through that. I never thought I'd go to university and just have such a negative experience. I felt so alone and like really lonely, and like I would do things like go into the library and I feel like people are looking at me weirdly because I'm all by myself, and I had a lot of insecurities about being by myself. Like, and all my friends were like other unis or doing other stuff, like chasing different dreams basically. So my first year was it was very like upsetting. It was upsetting me and my homegirls. Nah, it was only accepting it. It was only yeah. Anyway, beside the point. So my first year out of my bachelor's degree, I was literally considering dropping out. I'm like, this is not for me. And I think it was a cultivation of the fact that the workload wasn't great and I wasn't enjoying the subject, the lack of friends, and just everything wasn't sitting right with my soul. But I think I'm very stubborn and I just powered through it. Second year, same thing. I was enjoying the course, but at the same time, the workload was getting to me. I have a lot of mental issues as well. So I think all of that combined together made my second year kind of like, ugh. Made my second year feel like things weren't really getting better. Like, yeah, maybe I was enjoying the work more. Maybe I was finding myself, but at the same time, is this really the right path for me? Should I be wasting all this money? And I think what tops it all up is like, when it comes to winter and everything is dark and I'm going home by myself, I'm feeling very je ne sais quoi. I'm feeling very like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this environment. I hate studying. And keeping in mind, I've been studying since school, secondary school, primary school, secondary school, to high school, to college, straight to university. I never had a gap year. And now I'm finally taking a gap year after I finished all my education, all my compulsory education. But yeah, I felt like it was all too much for me, and I think that's what led my second year to be bad as well, like from seeing how bad my first year was. And my foundation year as well, I think I did okay because I needed a break from socializing too much. But when it came to my first year and I met a new group of people, I still wasn't like adapting as well as I thought I would. But my second year went the same and I kind of like hated it, didn't want to be there, I wanted to drop out. Then came my third year, which was 2020. I think every year I was at uni I wanted to drop out, and my final year was no different. I wanted to drop out too. I hated the workload, I hated everything. I was really enjoying certain aspects, and then like we came into uni one day and I found out my favourite tutor had quit right as we were going into our final year, and I really needed his support, man. And he didn't tell us anything before he quit, but I was quite upset by that. And yeah, so I just started going into it like I was like, I've got this. Girl, you've got this. You're literally in your final year and that's it. You're done. You got this degree in the bag. Like, come on, let's go. And I was really motivated to get like, I was aiming high. I was trying to get a first at uni because I thought it looked great on my CV or when I applied for my master's. So I was aiming high and I was trying, to like really get it. And like, I think in my second year, my grades were like, they looked pretty good. I got a first in one of my courses. Anyway, final year started. Our first semester we had to work on our dissertation and everything went downhill from there. We had separate tutors for our illustration assignments and our dissertation assignment. We saw our dissertation assignment, the tutor for we only saw them once a week. and like you could email them and they'll get contacting you, but you couldn't really get like as much information on like how your dissertation was looking. And we went into it very blind. We had one like lecturer in the when they introduced the dissertation module to us, and they were very wishy-washy with the information they were telling us. They gave us like a bunch of information in one sitting, and then they told us to look at our reading list and our reading guides and go to these we had these sessions in the library that would help you write your dissertation, and I went to literally every single one of them. And like I thought, I've got this in the bag, let me choose a subject I'm really passionate about. I chose to write about like Sailor Moon, and basically talking about like the female representation. I'm having flashbacks. The female representation of like in the manga, and how it affected me growing up and things like that. And I was gonna go into a bunch of different things. I was really passionate, my tutor could see that. And like writing it was great and everything. Tell a lie, it wasn't great. It was really stressful, but the worst was when it was all over. With the lack of like interaction with my tutor, there was a lot of things that I thought were going great, which when I submitted it, it turns out they weren't going great. I used to refer to my reading guide and looking at the books they gave us, the books they told us to go get ourselves. An issue arose when in our reading guide said you should have an essay, and our reading guide said we should put a survey in our essay, and I did that. And when I tell you, like we didn't have any communication with our tutors. I couldn't even run it by her because I couldn't even contact her. So when I handed it in, that's when I knew, like, that's when I would get my feedback on it. And by then it'd be too late to edit anything. Anyways, I thought it was all fine and dandy, and I think I may have mentioned it in passing, and they didn't really say anything about it. I had my work in, we get a grade for it. I check and there's an issue, and they call me into the office, and I talk to my tutor about it, and she tells me that basically they were going to fail me because I added the essay in, and there's something with legality, like you have to get the essay authorized or something that they had never gone into detail about and they'd never mentioned. They may have, I think in passing they said like, oh, you don't really need to do an essay. They didn't say no, I keep saying essay, I mean questionnaire. They were like kind of like you can do a questionnaire but you don't really need to, but they never said no, don't do a questionnaire. So I did a questionnaire thinking, yeah, this will help benefit my essay and it'll make it look good. So to summarize, my tutor said that they just capped me at a 40, so I just barely passed it, but in reality it could have been much worse. I could have been disqualified and kicked out. Obviously, hearing this, I had a mental breakdown. I was like, oh, thank you so much for doing this to me. I left. I went to my other tutor, bawled my eyes out. I was crying, like, I can't believe I could have been disqualified over this. I can't believe I could have been kicked out from uni because of this. It was so stressful, and just like the whole experience of writing the essay and thinking, wow, this is going great, I'm doing amazing, collecting the questionnaires and compiling everything. I thought I had it in the bag. And then to find out like I'd been capped at a 40 for that, and like things could have gone way worse for me, but I think it was just so disheartening, just that like things could have been prevented if we had been given a better support system, if we had more help. But yeah, that was the first semester. And I'd been keeping a close eye on all my grades from when they started being able to count. So like in the first year your grades don't count at all, and in the second year I was calculating from second year to my third year. We have like 6 modules a year, so out of 12 modules I was trying to find the ones that would get me that first. So I was constantly monitoring and constantly trying to plan my work out. I want all this work to look like it will be amazing. I want all my artwork to be a first. I want to get all those good grades. So when my dissertation was capped at a 40, I'm like, oh my god, it's going to set me back so much. I have to work even harder the next semester. And that was the plan. And the plan would have continued if we start our second semester, and we only have 2 semesters. Even though we pay for 3 semesters, actually. Every year we pay for 3 semesters, but we only have 2 semesters where we go in. I'm not complaining, but I kind of am. Anyway, so I go in thinking, yeah, let's do this. In March, start going in, we start doing our work, and I'm like, yeah, I'm so motivated. I have all these amazing plans. I take a trip to Tanzania during that first semester, which was actually before March, it was February, and I collected like a lot of research for one of the modules I was planning. And it went great, and then like during March all the COVID stories started coming out, and like we were finding out there were more COVID cases in England, and the first one started coming, and I was following the news along. I was following along the news throughout the whole thing, and then I was very surprised that they actually cancelled uni, and this was all in March, and that was like the last time we ever went into uni. It's crazy to think about it, like a whole year later, now it's March, and basically this time last year I was working on my final major projects. I was working on my final semester of uni. Anyway, so we had to start doing work from home, and that really shifted like my mental game. I suffer from mental issues, so being in a completely new place, or being in a completely new environment in terms of working, and there was no motivation for me. I love going out to cafes, sitting there, doing my little sketches, drinking coffee, just being in that ambience. I like going to uni to print out my work and having that space there, using the computers, taking out books. So working at home and not being able to leave the house was very distressing for me. I didn't think it would, because I'm a homebody. I love staying at home, but it was very stressful, and my mental health started declining as the days, as the weeks went by. So like our whole last semester we had to work from home, and it was really like challenging, and like I tried staying motivated, but I could see my work slipping. We had 3 assignments to work on simultaneously, and we got extensions for them, and in some aspects the extensions helped with the 2 of the assignments, but my final major project, the one that was supposed to be, the one that was supposed to like be the factor of my identity as an illustrator, that went down. I had so much research for it, I had so much pictures for it, but then when it came to creating the final pieces, things didn't go as planned, and I did get a good grade, but I feel like to summarize, I didn't get that first I so clearly wanted. I got a 2-1 instead. My work slipped kind of in the second semester, and just COVID and everything, and the extensions didn't really help as much as I thought they would. But yeah, I'm super happy that I got 2-1, but I was so this close. If I had got like 10 more marks in my last assignment, I would have got a first, basically. But it sucks that I was so close to getting a first, and I got a 2-1 though, which is great. But yeah, I feel like COVID took away a lot of my good vibes, But yeah, I think another thing I didn't mention was during the summer last year, when I was in my final year, I was working 2 jobs, actually 2 retail jobs, and it was great for making money so I could go on holiday. But I had to quit both jobs simultaneously because they were quite stressful, and I needed money, but I needed to focus on my dissertation. I needed to focus on my final projects, because I wasn't spacing out my work in time. I was focusing on making money, and I'm thinking, wait, I need my first. So I quit both jobs and focused on my uni work, and then we went into lockdown. But yeah, I'm really happy that I did quit both jobs, because I don't think I'd be able to survive working 2 jobs or working even 1 job and going to work. Actually, tell a lie, I was working 3 jobs. I was doing 1 retail job, I was working in a shoe store, I was working in a piercing store, and I was working as a babysitter. But that one I could do my uni work while I was, at night time when the kids had gone to sleep. So that one is a bit more manageable. But now that I think about it, I was working 3 jobs in my final year of uni. So I think that added on to the stress a bit more. I'm going to show you some of my favourite illustrations over the years that I did. So I posted like what I feel like is my best work and what I could find on my PC laptop. But I definitely enjoyed creating this illustration for my magazine that I did in my second year. And I actually did, like, now that I think about it, I actually did illustrations to go into that magazine, and I did illustrations of like different influencers and like social media people. I did an illustration of like one of my favorite makeup artists on Instagram, and like I did some illustrations of some rappers, Rico Nasty, Megan Thee Stallion, Tierra Whack, and this was also my second year, and I got a good grade for this. And I chose like some other people. This was like a makeup artist and one of my favorite activists. And the illustration for this was like, I was really like getting to know myself as an illustrator, and I felt like the work was looking great, and like I was getting comfortable with it. And then I started going into doing illustrations of buildings. I did sketches of London, like what I eat and see in London, and I was really just getting into it. And my final pieces ended up being illustrations of like monuments around the world, basically. Not really monuments, like my favorite buildings around the world. Let's see. Another thing I really enjoyed was we had a poster module, so I created some political posters. I did 3 Black Lives Matter posters. I pretty much cried as I did this project because it was really disheartening, and like when you do research for it, you really see the severity of the issue of police brutality in America and in England. So my project was I created posters, and I was like, let me illustrate all the deaths in a certain year, all the deaths Black people had gone through during like a certain time period. I was going off a article, and it ended up being there was too many deaths. There was that year and the decade. During that decade, there was so much police brutality in America. I couldn't even illustrate all the victims. The victims I ended up illustrating, though, there were so many still. So I tried, like, this took a lot of work. They were A2 posters, so they were like pretty big. A2's like this big, like from my head to like my torso. So I did 2 posters with all the victim faces, and in the third poster, which was the one that would be presented, one in the middle would have like a massive fact and the title of it, and the 2 on the side would have the illustrations of as many victims as I could illustrate within a time period. They all had a theme that they followed, and these were the victims on one of the posters. As many as I could. I had a little tag on the bottom of each illustration with the year they were killed and the day and the names and the age. I had Jordan Edwards, Tamir Rice, Emantic Edge Fitzgerald, Christopher Whitfield, Antoine Rose Jr., Alton Sterling, Anthony Hill, and from there were so many more. Michael Brand, Devon Bailey, Botham Shenjin, and like I was finding out more and more, and it was like mentally it was so disheartening. And like I feel like my project, this was the second poster, and there was more. I had Sandra Bland there, and the poster was quite big, so it's a bit cut off, so I had to do it in parts. And then the third poster was the one with the fact about, I did the hashtag, and in like the 2 annotation boxes I have basically the fact. This was like I was trying to find like a good fact like that would compile the poster together. So it was 69 black men and boys killed by police, and 15 black women were killed during police encounters in the US. And this is just one statistic I found. According to a study published this week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, over the course of lifetime, black men face a 1 in 1,000 risk of being killed during an encounter with police, a rate much higher than white men. And I feel like that fact and that tie together. I think the grade I got was pretty average, but I feel like the work I did for it was pretty good. So with student finance, like when I applied for university when I was in college, they don't really go into detail how it works. And you kind of think, yeah, there's interest rate, I'm going to pay interest, I'm going to pay the student finance thing. And like you read through all the forms, and there's just so many, and a lot of times you just, click the privacy policy declaration, yeah, I read that. But yeah, student finance was not explained properly to me, and like I went into it thinking, okay, this is how it works, calm, let me just keep calculating over the years. So when my degree was finally over, I calculated it to come up to around, I think it should have been like £42,000 £100. And then when I was on holiday, I checked my balance. It was like £50,000 while I was on holiday. The interest rate had jumped, and then there was like a charge there that I didn't really understand. So I had to call them, and like they explained it to me. It didn't make any more sense. But basically, till there's like a certain period till you can be eligible to pay, which will be this year's April. April coming up, that's when I can start paying. But from when I've left uni till April, they'll every week they'll add on like £100. Like interest will still be going. They'll lower it from that massive jump. So from when I was on holiday, let's say, was it October or something? No, I'm getting that wrong. But when I was on holiday, from then till April, they're gonna keep adding 100. So the last time I checked, it was 50,000. Now it's probably like 51,000 or 52,000. And when I originally thought I was only getting 42,000, like they had added like 5,000 extra, and that was from interest from the beginning of when I first took it out. So in 4 years, I'd got like 5,000, and the interest rate was quite low when I first saw it, and like 0.1% looks really low, and then I think it turned to 1.1 or something like that, and like it really took me out, and it kind of just ruined my holiday experience for me. When I came back to England, I called them and I checked my balance again. It had gone up again, and it was crazy. It was stressing me out. But yeah, I'm gonna be paying off this debt now for the rest of my life. Yay! And now the job market's completely gone to shit with COVID and everything, so that's great. It's so easy to find a job now. It's not. I've been looking since lockdown started. Yeah, so that's the sitch. Don't go to uni, it's a scam. I feel like I feel like if I had the knowledge I have now, maybe I don't think I would have applied for uni. And to be honest, I was peer pressured into going to uni. My tutors were like, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really know. I'm gonna think about it. Go to uni, you little bitch. I'm gonna go that." I cannot, for the life of me, recommend going to Wolverhampton unless you're doing another subject. I think the funding for University of Wolverhampton went to the business, the science buildings, the law buildings. Like, when you see all the other buildings and compared to the School of Art, you can see there's literally zero funding for the School of Art. We had like a really shabby building, and like apparently it's been there since World War something, and there was no heating there, and it was just a very uncomfortable building to be in, where you're thinking, am I safe in this building? Should I be here at 9 p.m? It was very scary. But yeah, just seeing how I feel like there was a lack of care for the University of Wolverhampton's art section. I feel like they didn't give a flying hoot about us in terms of the funding for the building. And I'm thinking, I pay £9,250 a year. Where's that money going to? So when my degree came in the mail, I was so disappointed. I was like, is that it? This is my degree. Very anticlimactic. When it came in the mail, I'm like, please, the paper doesn't even look that good. I hope everything I've said was informative at all or has helped in any way, but that was basically my unique experience, and I hope I edit this well so that you kind of can understand everything from my perspective, and that's just my experience.